Welcome to Father and Son, and welcome to you, Tom.
Morning, Dad.
Well, what goes on in a week? We've had a bit of a stoush in the Federal Liberal Party. I was Federal President there from 87 to 90. It's the first time I can ever remember there being a contest for a long time.
And it was a close contest as well. In fact, now Peter Reith, the former Howard government minister, considered one of the hard men of the former government, he ran against Alan Stockdale, the former Victorian Treasurer, and Jeff Kennett, lost by one vote.
And it looks like it was Abbott's vote. I think the problem actually has been created a bit by Abbott because he's clearly been indecisive. And there he was, he finished up voting for Stockdale and he won by one vote.
Well, Peter Reith says that Tony Abbott was the one who encouraged him to run, and then Abbott voted for Stockdale. But what is also interesting, there are 4 vice presidents of the
one of whom is a great friend of yours in the Melbourne Club.
That's right, Tom Harley. All 4 of the vice presidents apparently voted against Stockdale and voted for Reith. So
my view is the 4 vice presidents should stand down because you've got to get unity back together again. And I think they should all. I'm going to ring Tom Harley and tell him he should stand aside, and I'll ring Downer as well.
It does seem odd because some new opinion polls have come out this morning and the Prime Minister's popularity has plumbed to an all-time low. Tony Abbott, for the first time, is now preferred as Prime Minister. Exactly. On a 2-party preferred basis. A poll, if held today, or election, the Libs would win 55-45, which is a very big majority.
Huge.
So you would have thought with the party doing so well in the polls at least, for there to be this discord at the administrative level does seem a bit odd.
Clearly, I think from behind the scenes what I've heard is that Stockdale doesn't do enough work to raise money, and that's what you've got to do so they get enough money to go and run an election. That's, I think, what the criticism is, that there's not enough financial muscle. And I met the new Treasurer, who seems a very nice fellow. He's a friend of ours, comes from Sydney. But he doesn't have a high enough profile, in my view, to be able to go out and suck the money out of the big corporations.
Well, like it or not, the thing is that running for office and winning elections costs more and more money these days. Some people think, of course, it should all be publicly funded, but I don't know if taxpayers want to at least have their taxes compulsorily put to such a thing already.
Well, they are.
Well, that's right. I mean, pardon me, political parties already get a lot of money from taxpayers. Shouldn't be any more. In the US, of course, they do. But you don't want it there. I mean, you cannot run for the US Senate, I've read somewhere, unless you have, it's something like $40 or $50 million. I mean, it's just, that only means...
a wealthy man's pastime.
Well, exactly. It means only a certain class of person never gets in there. And that can't be a good thing.
No. Now, the Foster saga goes on. We haven't seen another bid yet. I see that guy Glewis, who never liked me much. He's a very poor writer in my view. He wrote that back in the 80s we had a chance to buy the Mexican brewer. That is so far from the truth, it's just sheer nonsense. And he wrote a whole article in the Australian yesterday about it. Just gets it all wrong.
Yes, well, you never want to get between a journalist and a good story with something like the truth. Hello to Richard Lewis if you're watching this. But look, the Foster's shares are trading at $5.20. There'll be more about that in the market report. That's about 6% above the existing bid. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either the Foster's board will negotiate with SAB Miller and get a more acceptable price, or indeed the Mexican brewer, which is Grupo Modelo, or perhaps in conjunction with Molson Coors, possibly Anheuser-Busch, or InBev as they're now called, and of course Asahi in Japan can't be ruled out. So there's plenty of buyers.
So what's the rumours in the marketplace? Are they saying another bid is likely?
I think more people think that the board will be forced to come to some sort of deal with SAB Miller. So another bidder.
We've always been very good friends with SAB.
Of course.
SA Brewing, I formed a very close association with SAB when I was running the brewery, and we did a joint venture purchase of a small brewery in America, and Miller were our distributors of beer in the United States. So it's been a fairly close relationship.
Well, and of course you also had a relationship with Molson's, which is the Canadian brewer, and they're potentially one of the bidders now.
We own half of Molson's.
Yeah. Anyway, look, the thing is, within 6 months, it's all going to be over. I think the next big step is next month, the results are due out, and that'll be the Foster's board's last real chance to say, this is why the company's worth more than $4.90 a share. Obviously, it's been pretty tough for brewers recently. We had a relatively cool summer. All the natural disasters didn't help beer sales. And of course, Foster's in general, its portfolio of brands have been sliding relative to its major competitor here in Australia. So unfortunately, extracting a higher...
I'm not sure it's to TUI so much as to all the small
Well, it's partly to his Lion Nathan, which is now owned by Kirin. But you're right. I mean, Cooper's, the South Australian brewer, its market share's up a couple of percent. There's all sorts of imported beers which are doing quite well. So life has got tougher. On that issue, though, I mean, there's the emotional concern as to do Australians worry about who owns their breweries. But the chairman of General Motors, Holden. Now, Holden was owned by the American General Motors,
yep,
but it's seen as an Australian car manufacturer. The two cars they make here, the Commodore and the Cruise. He's saying unless the federal government offers up more taxpayers' money, the future of manufacturing, that is car manufacturing here in Australia, can't be guaranteed. What do you think, Dad? Should we pump more taxpayers' money into making cars that, to be honest, not many people want to buy?
No, the only argument when Philip Lynch was in the job as Minister of Trade many years ago, and I was a good friend of his, he said that the thing about manufacturing vehicles in Australia, it does help us from a defence point of view. That we have got some technical skills in this country which are useful in car making, which can be applied if we've got it isolated in some form.
Well, which of course is what happened in World War II. In fact, after World War II, it's a little known fact, Australia had the 7th biggest aircraft industry in the world. I mean, because we were cut off by the Japanese and Britain couldn't come to our aid, we were forced to make planes like the Wirraway. I think we manufactured Kitty Hawks and assembled Spitfires here. You know, we were quite good, and within a decade after the end of the war, we'd given all that up. But it's probably a long bow to draw to say that we need to make Commodores and cars like that in order to, I don't know,
have some engineering skills in the country. I agree with you. I think basically we want to get our cars at the cheapest price.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, it's still a bit of a worry, but I think it's inevitable that Australia's going to lose its manufacturing basis. The more a country grows and develops and gets more sophisticated, it finishes up in the service industry.
Well, but that's what happens. I mean, China's where things are manufactured now. There was an amazing story in the paper I read yesterday. I think it was one of the American online papers, where a new bridge between Oakland and San Francisco, the old one was badly affected by an earthquake. The new bridge is basically being constructed in China. You know, they outsourced it. They make it. They put it on ships, and it sails from China to the Chinese port all the way to San Francisco, where it's basically assembled on the water. Now that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. That an American bridge in an iconic city would not be made by American workers.
Exactly. Well, you see the way they build apartments these days. It's all prefabricated, and they just come and assemble them on site.
Yeah, the world has changed.
One of the other interesting things that's happening this week, just a little aside, is Prince Albert of Monaco is getting married.
Yes, to a South African swimmer.
She's quite a good sort, I was told. I haven't seen a picture of her yet. Well, it's just interesting because Bob Cowper still lives in, my great friend Cowper still lives in Monaco, and he used to captain Prince Rainier's cricket team. And Colin Cowdery used to bring down a team from England, and Prince Rainier used to get upset if they didn't beat him. And he did that for several years. So I don't know what happens now. I think the oval they played on, they needed the land to build out.
No, not much land in Monaco. Monaco's not a great force in world cricket, is it?
No, it's not at all. The only people that play would be expatriates.
Hey, now just finally, there's a big story in all the Melbourne papers today about Western Bulldogs player Justin Sherman. He apparently racially vilified a Gold Coast Suns player who's of Nigerian origin on the week. The AFL's thrown up its hands in horror. He's been suspended for 4 weeks and has to pay $5,000 fine. Do you think we're overreacting, or do you think this sort of punishment is appropriate for what was allegedly said?
Well, I think we've been through, I thought we were all over the racial vilification. We sorted it out many years ago. So I think they've got to keep their foot on it. And we don't want it to recommence. No, it wasn't much good in the old days. So I think they've got to fine him, and I think they've got to rub him out, and that'll stop others doing it. But it's even worse when some of the supporters start doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just pathetic.
It is indeed.
All right, Tom, I'll now let you get on with your market report. You'll have plenty to say there, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.